Hey everyone, today I'm coming at you with my absolute favorite brushes. Now this is not to say these are the only brushes I use, and my friends who are watching this who have been in my bathroom are cracking up right now because, or if you've been in one of my lives and you've seen my bathroom, you know I have many, many more brushes. But I have a few trips planned actually in January alone, and I'm starting to think about what to pack. And I thought, okay, if I'm packing, this is what well, not all of these, but this is what I'm bringing. So sometimes I have a higher end and a more affordable option. Sometimes it's only one or the other. I'm not going to fill it with something just to say I have something for every category, but I'm going to walk you through everything I recommend here and a couple of little extras. Now, if you're just getting started in this whole makeup thing and you find this incredibly overwhelming, please, first of all, don't feel like you need to run out and buy every single thing. This is after literally, over 8 years of playing with makeup here on YouTube. I've accumulated a lot. A lot has been sent to me. I've watched a lot of other people's videos, which have influenced me heavily into buying. And to be perfectly honest, I have a list of more that I want to buy and swap out for other things. But I can't recommend those yet because I don't own them, so I don't know if I'm really going to like it. But as you play with makeup, you get familiar with the shape of your face and the kind of techniques that you like to do. You will hone it down and figure out what you want to do. Let's start with face brushes. I'm going to try to do it in the order in which I put stuff on. So foundation. I definitely prefer using a brush over anything else for foundation, and I prefer a very specific kind of brush. I like a dense flat top, what we call a flat top kabuki brush. The ones I reach for the most are all from IT Cosmetics. There's a variety of them. This one, the only thing I don't like about them is they have very long names. This one is the Heavenly Luxe Flat Top Buffing Foundation Brush, and this is probably my most reached for foundation. My most reached for brush. Monday morning I'm filming this, so cut me some slack. Anyway, but really I do this in every video, so whatever. What I like about this is I love the finish. I love how this makes me look airbrushed. So it doesn't have to be this brush. IT Cosmetics makes a few that I like. This one's shaped a little differently. If you look at them head on, this one's a circle. There we go. And this one is more of a wedge shaped. I just washed some of these. This one comes to a point sort of at the top here, so you can turn it to get into the little nooks and crannies. This wedgy one, is the Skin Perfecting Complexion Brush. No difference except for the shape. It's totally personal preference. And then this one is kind of newer to my collection, and it's cut at an angle. Again, doesn't really matter. And this one is from Ulta. It's IT Brushes for Ulta, and it is the Airbrush Complexion Perfection. All of these are interchangeable. Why do I have 3? Because I'm lazy and I hate washing my brushes. So when one gets dirty, I can just reach for another one and delay the inevitable. Now, a more budget-friendly one that I really love, and there's a few from this line, Real Techniques makes outstanding face brushes. I'm not the biggest fan of their eye brushes, but their face brushes are amazing. My favorite of all of the face brushes is the Expert Face Brush, which is right here. It's the same concept. It's more of a dense brush, a little bit. This one's rounded, but it's basically flat on the top. And how I put on foundation, if you haven't watched, is I pump it on the back of my hand, dot it where I want it, and then kind of pat and push the foundation in and kind of smear it, and then start buffing it in a little bit to blend it all in. Another one they make is the buffing brush, the contour brush. All of their face brushes from Real Techniques that have this density to them are my preference. Now, I'm going to completely contradict myself and say there are times when I like to use a beauty sponge, beauty blender. It doesn't have to be the Beauty Blender brand. When I say beauty blender, it's kind of how when you say Kleenex. Kleenex is the brand name. We really mean facial tissue, but nobody says facial tissue. We all say Kleenex. So beauty blender. In this case, I have a lot of them. I had a Flower Beauty one. I think Rowdy ate it. I can't find it. But I have quite a few. I have the actual beauty blender one. I literally just washed this. This one's probably on its last legs because it's still damp from washing and I still can't get the stain out. I have a Real Techniques one. I have a couple This is a brand from a viewer. I will put her website below. Hers are shaped with a flat side, so you can really press the product in. Why do I like these sometimes? I prefer to use these with the heavier, more full coverage, thicker, creamy liquid foundations. It just shears them out a little bit and makes them look a bit less cakey. And if you have the time and you really want a beautiful finish, start application with a brush like this and then finish by patting it in with your beauty blender to just really get rid of any brush lines, blend it in. Just one thing, some people don't realize this, whatever kind of beauty sponge you're using, it needs to be damp, not dry. So run it under water until it expands. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. I like to squeeze it like into a towel so it's just damp and not dripping, and then use it. Okay, then let's talk concealer. Now, many times I just pat it in with my finger, but sometimes you get a little more of that, like I said, airbrushed, kind of blended feeling if you use a brush. So the brush I reach for the most, there's only one, is this one. It's from Sigma. I like to call this my big hairy thumb because it kind of looks like a giant. I think it kind of looks like, it actually doesn't look like a thumb. This is the Sigma Concealer Blend Kabuki F79. It's pretty big, but it does fit into the corners here for under eye, patting it in, and anywhere else that you might have a blemish. They do make a smaller version of this. I will list that below as well if this is a little overwhelming to you, but this is what I reach for the most. I do have a specialty concealer brush. So sometimes you have a blemish that's raised, that's bumpy, maybe it's scabbed over, maybe you cut yourself and you have a scab, and traditional liquid concealers do not stick to it. And that's when I reach for my Bare Minerals concealer or a heavy powder foundation like my It Celebration, and you can't just pat that on with a finger for full coverage. You need a special kind of brush to blend that in. The one I reach for is from Zoeva. It's the Concealer Buffer Brush 142. It's basically like a teeny tiny kabuki brush. Sigma makes one as well. It's not as rounded as this. It's very tiny. And you literally, I have one right here. Can you see it? And I take the powder foundation, I dip it into it, and I literally just buff it right in, and it works like a charm. This is not something I reach for all the time. It's a very specialized tool, but I can't live without it. Let's move on to powder. There's really only one powder brush that I use consistently lately, so I wanted to show that one to you. Any big fluffy brush will work. Real Techniques makes one actually that I have that I should have grabbed to show you for a budget-friendly option that I do love. It's just their powder brush. It Cosmetics makes a big fluffy powder ball brush that I love, but lately I've been reaching for this one. It's a little denser. It's not quite as fluffy, and I've been using this to set my foundation with a foundation powder, so maybe that's why I like this one better. This is the Sigma Large Powder Brush F30. This is the travel size, so the handle's a little bit shorter, but yeah, just any kind of fluffy brush will do, but I think everyone needs a big fluffy brush in their collection, regardless of who makes it. One more specialty kind of powder brush I want to talk about is a setting brush for under your eyes. I always set my under eye concealer, and I reach for this one the most. It even has a special name. It's from Real Techniques, and it's literally called a setting brush. It's really tiny, as you can see. It is a little bit fluffy, comes to a nice rounded point, and I use it, don't sweep. Well, I mean, you can do whatever you want. I don't know why I said that. There's no rules. I use it I dip it in the powder and I press it in here. It's amazing. I also use it to press powder, my blurring powder, into the lines here and here. Lovely little tool. You can use it for highlighter too. All of these brushes have multiple functions, but I'm just going to talk about the primary one that I use it for. All right, let's talk bronzer, which I need to add some more. I'm looking a little pale today. I really like an angled fluffy brush for bronzer, and the one I've been using the most lately is the It Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe French Boutique Blush Brush. For blush, this is far too large. Can you see? This would take up if I put blush on with this, it would take up my entire side of my face. So I like to use it to chisel on the bronzer. So this does double duty when I put on bronzer as a bronzer and contour kind of. It's on the larger side, so if your face is smaller, which mine is, you might want to go for something a little bit smaller. And for that, and maybe a little more budget friendly, there's a Sigma. This is the large angled contour brush, F40. It's not as fluffy though as the It Cosmetics version. And so I reach for this more. Again, this is when you have too many brushes, first world problems. What I tend to do now, this is recently within the last couple of weeks, is I put the bronzer on with a smaller brush, with the Sigma brush, and then I blend it with the fluffy brush. This is overkill. I understand. As for blush, I have a lot of blush brushes, but there's only one I reach for, especially when I travel, and it's this one. The Real Techniques. Now, it's not a blush brush, it's their multitask brush, but I love that I can just pounce it. It's fluffy and soft, and I just pounce my blush right on my cheeks, and then I can blend. And then lastly, highlighter. This is the only brush I've used for years, pretty much. Once in a while, I'll play with a fan brush, but honestly, if there's only one brush I could use for the rest of my life, it would be this one. It's from Wayne Goss. It's his brush number 2. It's so soft. It's multi-purpose. I mean, you really could almost do all your powder on your face with this. You could definitely, set very controlled with this. You could do blush with this, but I use it for highlighter. It's so soft. It's the perfect size for me. It blends, it sweeps, it's lovely. It cleans like a dream. It dries right back into shape. It's the only one I own from his collection. I probably should buy a couple more. Maybe I should get one size bigger and use that for my blush brush because I just love his brush. Well, I can't say his brushes. The one brush I own is amazing. Now we're gonna get a little crazy and talk eyes. And this is where we get into the overkill situation. I'm just gonna walk you through a whole bunch of them. So in no particular order, there is one flat shader brush that is the absolute standout. I have many, many versions of this. I try other brands. I always come back to this, MAC 239. Hopefully they're still making it. It's just the perfect flat shader brush, and I have not found a dupe for it. If someone has, please let me know in the comments below. But I love that it's white, so I can see when it's dirty a little more easily, or if it washes really well. It's soft. I use it to pack color onto the lid, and I can turn it on its side if I need to and blend. So let's talk blending. Let's see where to begin. Let's talk about laying a crease down. We're going with Sigma again, the E40. Hands down, far better than the MAC 224. It's softer. I feel like it washes better. Now, this is one of those things where I have a list of other brushes I want. So the E40 is what I use in my crease, and I also use to blend whatever I already have on. I am aware of an E38, which is a similar brush, but a tiny bit smaller. I don't have the largest eyes, so the E38 is on my personal wish list, something I will be adding to my collection soon. Since we're talking crease brushes, let's just stay there. There are 4 that I use and love pretty much interchangeably. No, 3 interchangeably and one that's just kind of interesting. So let's start with the interesting one. This was actually in my 2018 favorites. It's the Zoeva 228 Luxe Crease Brush. It's sort of a hybrid between what I just showed you and what I'm about to show you. So it's definitely rounded all the way around, but it comes to a bit of a point at the top. So it's really great for blending and putting down color, but also for getting stuff here in the corner. It's a multitasker, and I recently acquired it in late 2018, and I can't believe I don't have anything like this before. Didn't have anything like this before. English is hard. This is what I was using before that one came along, and I still use it the most out of any of my kind of more detailed crease work. The original would be the MAC 217. So this is the ultimate workhorse brush, I think. If you're gonna have one, oh my gosh, can't even imagine, one eyeshadow brush, it's the 217 or any of the dupes that I'm about to show you. The reason why, when you look at it head on like this, it is flat. So you can use it to pack on color on your lid. But it's also rounded like a crease brush. So most people use it to put color in the crease a little more defined. You can turn it sideways and blend. So you can blend, you can put on color. It just does a variety of things, and it's thin enough, looking at it this way, you can use it to run color under your lower lashes as well. A lot of uses. So the original OG of the brush collection would be the MAC 217. I use this interchangeably. I don't even know which one I'm reaching for, so I don't have a preference. There is the Sigma Blending E25, which looks exactly the same. And now, new to my collection, is the Zoeva 227 Luxe Soft Definer, also basically looks the same. So you don't have to have the MAC 217. There are definite perfect dupes for that. But I would say if there's one eye brush that you add to your collection, if you don't already have it, some version of a MAC 217 shaped brush. Then another specialty brush. This is a pencil brush. It's a very small, tipped, fine pointed brush that's really used to run something along a lash line, whether it's upper or lower or like a cut crease. It's a very dense, pointed brush. And the original one that I had is the old Sigma numbering, so I cannot remember it. It's a Sigma pencil brush. I'll put it in the description below what the numbering system on it is. Obviously, they held up really well. This thing is about 8 years old and doing just fine. Like I said, you use it. You could also use it to smudge out eyeliner. You can use it to add some detail in the inner corner. There are a lot of uses for it. It's definitely not something you have to have, but as you're expanding your brush collection, I highly recommend it. Two others that I really like is the Zoeva version of it. Zoeva, I don't know how you say this. It's the 230 Luxe pencil brush. And then one that I think is a little more forgiving is the Sigma Small Tapered Blending. It's an E45, and as you can see, it's about the same width as a pencil brush, but it comes to a distinct point. And what I feel like, if you're especially adding color on your lower lash line, it's not as dense and it does have more give. So if you're worried about packing on too much, or if you're particularly heavy-handed, running this back and forth under the lash line adds the color and blends at the same time. So it gives you that softer, diffused look, which is what I used today to put on my shadow here, which is, by the way, this is from the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. Everything I'm wearing will be listed below as well. Then a few more specialties. So I love, love, love cream shadow. Anything shimmery and a little metallic, sign me up. But for that, I really don't recommend using anything that has like this natural hair type, even though I don't think any of this is actually real hair. I think this is all fake. None of this is like shaved animal bits, but I'm talking like nylon or I don't know, some sort of actual synthetic, made to look synthetic brush, because they're just easier to get liquid cream shadow off and they tend to work better with that medium. So I recommend, you don't have to have all of these. I just want to show you the ones that I have in my collection. This you might already have. This is what's in a lot of the Urban Decay palettes. This one was, I don't know which one it was from. They're usually double-ended, and I like the flat side to pack on the liquid or cream shadow, and then this slightly more fluffy side to kind of blend it out. But the one I like the most is this one from Real Techniques. It's the Dome Shadow Brush. It's a little more dense, yet soft and fluffy at the same time. It's an oxymoron, but it is. And like I said, I use one side to pack it on and the other side to blend it out, and the cream washes right off. And then another one that's a little more specialty and it works well. I like it with harder cream shadows like the Chanel, what are those called? Illusion d'Ombre, like the heavy packed in creamy-ish cream to powder shadows, is basically a flat concealer brush. Now I have a fancy one. This is from Clé de Peau. Any flat concealer brush or a lip brush, again, you can dip it right into the pot because it's pretty stiff, and then pack it right onto the lid, and it's fabulous. Couple more things I want to show you. I've been talking about how easy it is to clean certain brushes or how I clean brushes. I wanted to mention what I've been using lately to clean them, which is this guy. This is the it is from Beauty Blender. It is the Blender Cleanser Solid Pro. Just used this last night, and I'm making a good dent. It used to be rounded and to the top. This will clean any of these brushes. Like this, which one? This one was just covered in foundation. It was stiff with foundation. I got it wet. I got the top of this wet. You swirl it around. Get your hand, go like this, rinse it under the tap. That's it. That's how long it took to get it to look like this. So amazing. Definitely a huge improvement from the original Beauty Blender Solid Cleanser. Don't even bother with the original, the white one. Total waste of your time. Just get this one. And then the last thing I want to show you is this guy. This is a brush tree. It's been well loved. I actually have 2 of these, and this is what I use to dry my brushes when I'm done washing them. There are different size holes, so obviously like the more narrow brushes would go in here, like my eye brushes, and thicker brushes like this guy go in the bigger ones, and you just, let's do it in a bigger one. You just stick it in, and it dries and it hangs upside down like that. So when you're drying your brushes, you want to hang them upside down like this because you want the water to run down. If you have them sitting upright, the water will run down into the ferrule where the brush hairs are glued into the handle, and the water will eat away at the glue and break it down, and then your brush will ultimately fall apart. Also, if you dry them, there's nothing wrong with drying them on their side on a towel, but especially for the more specifically shaped brushes, they will, just like when you go to bed with your hair wet and you sleep like this and you have a dent in your hair, the same thing's gonna happen. I mean, you're gonna have to reshape it and it's not gonna dry all the way around evenly. So these things aren't terribly expensive. They come in other colors. If you're super lazy and don't wanna spin it around, you can even get it you can order the like Lazy Susan option. I'm perfectly capable of turning mine around. So like I said, I have two. I could probably add a third one and it wouldn't be a bad idea. And that is it. Those are my favorite brushes. Let me know what your favorite brushes are. I would love to know like what I'm missing from my collection. There is one more that I have there's a Sigma highlighting brush. Very similar to this that I have my eye on as well that I want to add. So 2 Sigma brushes that I have my eye on, but I want to know what you have your eye on. So let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.